Welcome in to Locked On Cubs. On today's show, we introduce you to this new version of Locked On Cubs. We're excited to introduce you to the new host. We outline the reasons why the Cubs are currently in the spot they're in, and then we dive into some of the few bright spots we've seen this season. That's all coming up on today's episode of Locked On Cubs. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cubs alongside Sam Olbur. I'm Matt Cozzi. Thanks for making Locked On Cubs your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, and we're excited to tell you more about that as the show goes along. This specific show has been off for a little bit, and now it's back. And we're excited to be your fresh eyes and ears and you a part of this audio and video journey with us. And we look forward to you giving us a chance here on Locked On Cubs. And we have a lot to say. And today's our first show, I think appropriately so, on the 4th of July, Sam, as we get into some of the intros on ourselves, our old show, and certainly a lot to discuss on today's program. So welcome in, and let's get started.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, this is a really exciting opportunity for you and I, two diehard Cub fans. I'll just start by introducing myself. I don't want to speak for you, but I think you're a diehard Cub fan, and if you're not, then we got a little bit of a problem. But my name's Sam Olbur. I am a lot of things, but the thing that I'm most into, the thing I'm most proud of, is my love for the Chicago Cubs baseball team. The highlight of my life, and look, folks, I'll be honest, I don't get out much. I live and die by this baseball team. It's July 4th. We're just recording after the Cubs lost a classic heartbreaker to the Milwaukee Brewers in 10 innings, and my Independence Day just got a lot worse because of that. That's who I am. That's how I operate. The highlight of my life pretty much was November 2nd, 2016, not only because the Cubs won the World Series, but it was also my 23rd birthday. So I live and die by this team. I look at the Cubs like I look at an immediate family member, somebody that you love. Sometimes they get on your nerves. Sometimes they really frustrate you. I guess maybe more of a relationship immediate family member, because sometimes they do break your heart. But at the end of the day, they're my Cubs, and I love them. And on this show, we're going to talk a lot about them. We're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it informative, but we're also going to keep it really entertaining, especially a team that's 16, 17 games below 500. We're going to have some fun with it. And I think you guys will enjoy our personalities, Matt, and we'll have a blast with it.
Yeah, Sam, I'm a diehard fan as well. I would say a generational fan. Certainly, there's been some exclamation points on that fandom as well. Even my grandfather, when he passed a few years ago, we buried him with a Cubs hat. My uncle has a World Series tattoo on his arm. My dad has like two or three Cubs license plates. That type of thing. I've had a connection with this team since I was a boy. And doing newsletters for neighbors on the Cubs and doing shows with one of my friends and putting it on a CD back when we were 13 or 14 years old, and just being with this team every step of the way, thick and thin. We described the thick, which happened on your birthday in 2016. There's been a lot of thin as well.
A lot of thin.
But we're still here. Through all that, we still support the team. You've seen Wrigley Field, and even in a campaign like the 2022 season, there's still good crowds. And I think that's the way that I feel about this team too. I just went to the game this past Thursday. I know you were at a game earlier in June, and just a lot of great memories with this team. One of those, which we're going to get to, and maybe even make our one of our missions of this show. But Sammy Sosa, Sam, boy, what a player he was. And even to this day, when I see highlights of him and Chip Carey announcing his home runs, I get goosebumps from time to time because that was in our childhood. And that's something that, even reminiscing, especially recently, in preparation for this show, just thinking about all the memories I have and things that I know and I've learned about this team, it's something I definitely hold close to me. So I know that was a long intro. There are going to be times when Sam teases me for that, and the reason why I know that is because we've done 92 shows entering today's ball game, if you
Speed
will.
up.
There it is, right
Let's
there.
go. I got something to
And
say.
yeah, well, you're going to have to wait about 20 more seconds. But our old show, Anything Goes, shout out to the first and longtime listeners of that program. And, we're really excited to have them aboard again and excited for all these new people to get to hear us. And yeah, just really, really happy with that.
All right. That was all good to hear. Look, there's not much more to say as Caratini hits a deep drive center field. Back goes Ortega, and the Cubs fall to 17 under 500. But we're going to discuss a lot of that stuff. We're going to discuss how the Cubs got here, like Matt said, and we're going to talk about some of the bright spots in this season on the day to day. And remember, I'm very passionate. Matt keeps me in check a little bit. I go a little haywire. I go game to game. They win 11-3. I'm putting, getting the W flag out and starting to think about, well, wait a second. This team's only 9 games out of the wild card. Let's get this thing moving. And then when they lose like today, the sky's falling. But I'm going to work on that for you guys. I'm going to give you a lot of information and give you kind of my take, and Matt will as well, as why the Cubs are where they are and how we got here. So let's get this thing rolling. Enough about us. Nobody really cares. And let's get to the good stuff.
Okay, we're going to get into some big picture conversation next about why the Cubs are where they are. But first, we wanted to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Summer is known for many things, but one of the biggest is the wedding season, and Blue Nile wants to play a role in that for you. Make your engagement moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Cubs listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. Use the code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece of wedding bling. Go to BlueNile.com today and use the code Locked On. Sam, there's a lot of reasons why the Cubs are where they're at. Last summer brought about many trades, including those of the core members of the team, the poster boys of the 2016 World Series team, and really that incredible era that the Cubs went on. And trust me, it was filled with a lot of success, a lot of good. The old regime built a great team, but not quite a sustainable product. And I know you have a lot of insight for us on that.
Yeah. It's funny. We're talking jewelry, and here we are talking about the Cubs core. But look, when you say the Cubs are where they're at, Matt, what we mean by that is that they are in a rebuild. I don't care what Jed Hoyer wants to call it, retool, rebuild, transition year. They are not trying to win baseball games this season, and they are in their second rebuild in 10 years. And the fan base, rightfully so, is frustrated about that. And so I want to just dig down. It's our first episode, so our fans or listeners, I should say, catch up on us why I think the Cubs are in their second rebuild in 10 years. Because a lot of people just say, oh, well, Ricketts needs to spend more money. And I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to divide this up into 3 reasons. I'm going to try and keep it brief because I want to hear your take on it, Matt, of why the Cubs are where they're at. And then I'll elaborate after it. So, and I'm not going in order of importance here, but the first thing that comes into my mind chronologically is the core. So we're talking about Kyle Schwarber, Javier Baez, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Wilson Contreras. These guys did not pan out the way Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein thought they were going to. And Jed Hoyer admitted on a radio show on 670 with David Kaplan a couple of weeks ago that one of his regrets was not trading one of the core guys sooner, maybe after the 2018 campaign, to get something back. Because what happened is all those guys had contracts up at the same time. They wanted more than market value. The Cubs didn't think they were worth it. We could argue about that for days if that's true or not. I mean, you look how it's playing out right now for Baez and Bryant, and then you see Schwarber's doing okay, Rizzo's doing okay, but overall, it was pretty obvious it wasn't going to work. So they had to trade them all at one time. Those guys didn't pan out the way we all thought they were. The Cubs offered them pretty, market-friendly extensions. They declined. All of them were free agents at once. When you lose your 5 best players all at once in one deadline, you're going to be in a rebuild. Number 2 is where we get into the ownership and the front office not being great, not being transparent. We're going to do a whole separate episode, so I don't want to crowd it too much on the Marquee Network, but the resources, the money, spending it on things other than the baseball team, stuff around the diamond, disbanding WGN and Comcast, or I guess NBC Sports Network now, Matt.
Yep.
And maybe one of my favorite things to do is just turn on WGN at 1:20 on a Friday and watch my Cubs. And now they're on this Marquee Network. And like I said, we're going to talk about this ad nauseum, but I'm not a fan of it at all. Right. And not being transparent about where's the money and spending and things like that. But it's also a lot more than that. It's also bad decision making. In the last, 3-4 years, Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer have made these type of signings, right? You got Daniel Descalso, you got Steven Souza Jr., you got Eric Sogard, you got Jonathan VR. These guys combined are worth negative 1.3 WAR. You and I would be better off just sitting on the bench, eating seeds and popcorn, rooting on the team, and we'd provide more value. You know what I mean? These guys stink. And no offense to them. These signings, Jan Gomes, there's a lot of bad signings. You go get Stroman this year because he's healthy and he's not even pitching. He's pitching terrible. I know it's early on. But when you combine all of that with trading the core, you put yourself in a bad spot. And then lastly, Matt, and I'm sorry, folks, sometimes I get on a little bit of I talk a lot, I get into it. But the last thing and the most important thing and the most important reason I believe the Cubs are where they are right now, which is a rebuild situation or a not trying to win now situation, is they haven't been able to develop in-house pitching. Since Jake Arrieta came and they were able to turn him into a phenomenal pitcher for a couple of years, they haven't been able to draft and develop pitching. And you look around the league, I understand the Dodgers spend a ton of money. I understand the Yankees spend a ton of money, but the Rays don't spend a lot of money. The Brewers don't spend a lot of money. What do those 4 teams have in common? They develop pitching. Right? After the 2016, right around 17, 18, there was this new wave of pitching, Matt, with high fastballs up in the zone, high spin rates to combat the uppercut swing and the launch angle, right? To get guys to swing and miss. You saw a lot of it with Eric Lauer today for the Brewers. The Cubs have not been able to find guys like that. They sure swing and miss against them. The Woodruffs, the Peraltas, these guys are all out there. The Cubs have not been able to develop in-house pitching, and they've been victimized by it plenty of times around the league. And I believe it's really caused them a lot of problems. You look around the league, every team has guys that throw 98, 99. Where's the velocity on this thing? Right? Nobody throws hard. Today, David Robertson, our best pitcher, is throwing 95, right? And so the Cubs have kind of had to restart that process, and it's getting better in the minor leagues now, but it's going to take time. So those are my three big reasons why I think the Cubs were there at. What do you think about that, Matthew?
I think that's really good. And I'm not surprised that is what you have. And if you have a take like that or any feedback at all, please drop us a line in the feedback zone. We do have a number you could reach us at, in addition to our Twitter handles that you see there on the screen. If you're watching the YouTube version of the show, leave us a voicemail or drop us a text, 312-834-4634. And we'll give you that number again towards the end of the program. I think one of the biggest frustrations of the last couple of years, and certainly down the stretch of 2018, is what I associate with the last era making a pivot for the worst. because in
Sure.
15 was highly enjoyable. You make the Final Four, but you're maybe a little bit early. Sure enough, you are. We know what happened as the 2016 ended with some jewelry. 2017 actually proved to be a very substantial year. They made the Final Four again. And then when September of 18 hits, it is like the shoe drops, the bottom drops. And 18 and 19, especially, the front office said, hey, there's time for a reckoning. The offense is broke. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And there was virtually no change. It was the same players, especially the core. They were never able to deal one of these guys for value, especially after 18 or 19, maybe even after 17, if you look back in hindsight. Of course, that's always 2020. Some of those guys they didn't even get value back for. If you think about Kyle Schwarber, who was non-tendered.
And speaking of hindsight being 2020, in 2020, they had 2 home games against the Marlins in the postseason and scored 1 combined run. Go ahead.
Right. And also, by the way, hindsight 2020, I have horrible vision. Okay, so there's a fact about me.
I think you broke that down beautifully. I don't want to talk about it too much longer because
I wasn't done, by the way.
it makes me a little nauseous. Carry on.
It does. It does make you know. And were you up or down during today's ball game?
I don't. Today's game really bothered me. I thought it was going to be a really good win. In case you missed it, folks, Seiya Suzuki walk off, or excuse me, top 9 inside the park home run. We lose the game. I'm really upset.
Okay, so and we'll get more to that
Yeah.
later in today's program. You know, I do kind of shudder when I think about last summer because what would have happened if they didn't lose 11 games in a row?
We
I
would be in
get
trouble.
I get I get that they've lost over 100 games since 1 year ago today, but if you don't lose those games, it began in late June and then spilled over to early July, woof,
Right. And
that is scary. And by the way, most, if not all of those trades were good deals. And
no,
are you going to take it on the chin this year? Yes. But you had to do that, especially because the team was not succeeding with those core players. Enough was enough.
right. That's the last thing I was going to say. And I'll talk about the things I really don't like about the current version of the team in a little bit,
Mhm.
but I was pro trade all those guys. I want to make that clear. I don't think I made that clear in my first part. They had to do it. Now the reason they had to do it
Right.
is where they put themselves in a predicament. But at that time, and like you said, Matt, if they don't lose 11 in a row last year, they don't rebuild this farm system because we've gone 18 minutes now not talking about the Cubs farm system. That is one massive positive. I understand
Yeah.
that rebuilding is frustrating, especially for one of the 3-4 biggest markets, but they completely revamped their system. It's not as star-studded as the system with the 2016 core, but it's definitely deeper. We'll have shows going forward about these guys. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss them at length. But Matt, I was pro get rid of those guys and get guys back like they did. But there's definitely some things going on with this current version of the team that really frustrate me that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I think we kind of covered it in regards to why they're in their second rebuild in 10 years, mixed in with a great run. And part of the reason part of me says they have to be in it, but part of me is frustrated with some of the moves that they've made and their lack of transparency. So that's all I got on that.
And that sounds really good to me. And we'll get to all of the current team after this. Actually, Sam, I did want to ask you about because we even yesterday spent a lot of time together,
We are
including
friends.
including some time in the car. And I learned yesterday that you've had a rental car since I believe early March. Is that true?
That is true. My transmission broke, and I haven't had the part in. It's been over 4 months.
And car parts are critically important, especially this time of year.
Mhm.
And if you have a car parts need, how about Rock Auto? Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
Well done.
And Sam, the Cubs have been playing better recently. They won their last 3 series over St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Boston. They had opportunities to sweep the Red Sox on Sunday. They almost certainly had opportunities another extra inning game, by the way. The Cubs are 3-8 in extra inning games this year, which is unfortunate. But they had another extra inning loss Monday to the Brewers. But they have been playing a little better lately. And sure, even in a year where they are so many games under 500, there's still some fun, enjoyable moments, 100%. But where did you want to go with the current team as it is? Because I feel like we're in the present. There's like almost a glimpse to the past on this roster. You know, you have some holdovers still from the last era. Then we have the present happening before our eyes. Then we're always kind of peeking into the future.
Yeah. So I think there's two ways to look at this current version. I want to start with defending the fans a little bit because the fans are frustrated. The fans were told, "Hey, this is going to be a competitive team," and blah blah blah. And to be fair to Jed Hoyer, I think if the pitching were healthy, Wade Miley, Marcus Stroman, Adbert Alzolay, Drew Smiley, all these guys, and maybe not all of them, but if just some of them were healthy, they'd probably be 3, 4, 5 games under. They've also had some ridiculous luck in one-run games, and they never pull out these close games. Part of that's because they're not that good. Part of it is because it's just, that's the way the cookie crumbles and it's not your year. But I will say the frustrating part of this team, and then we'll get into some bright spots, is the lack of transparency. So the biggest thing, and you were with me, we were on the phone when this happened, why fans deserve to be upset at this team, is when Clint Frazier, who's now Jackson Frazier, was DFA'd by the Cubs to get Jason Hayward more ABs, right?
Right.
When Jonathan VR is starting every day, and when Jason Hayward was healthy, he was taking away ABs from a young prospect, Nelson Velasquez, from taking away ABs from a young player like Jackson Frazier. These are the things that aren't fair to fans. If you're going to put them through a rebuild, let them see the guys that have a chance to be part of the future club. And the thing is, today, for example, Nelson Velasquez is pulled out of the game for Rafael Ortega to face Devin Williams. It's like, Rafael Ortega is not going to get a hit. He's not going to get a hit against Devin Williams.
And also, what do we learn if he does?
Right. Exactly. So that's really been frustrating. And then the other thing, Matt, that's really bothered me has been the way this team is managed. And we're going to get to some positives, I promise. But just bad defense, bad base running, some questionable decisions that just don't make sense. For example, today I thought David Ross left in Justin Steele way too long. After he walked Keston Hiura, he was done. Yeah. His job was done. So little things like that, like when you're a bad team like the Cubs are, or you're void of talent, you should be doing the little things well, and they don't do the little things well. They don't defend, they don't base run well, they don't clutch hit. So those things are frustrating. Do you have anything to add on that, or can I get to some good stuff?
Yeah, let's get mostly into the good stuff. I just wanted to point out about the starting rotation.
Yeah.
If you're just talking Stroman, Miley, Smiley, and even throwing Alzolay, that's literally 80% of a rotation.
Right.
You throw in Hendricks, that's 5 guys.
Right.
So it's almost
nice high pitch
in that way.
Nice high pitch right there. That's usually my thing. Nice high pitch. Nice white teeth, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just standard dental hygiene. But 5 guys in a starting rotation, 4 of them you haven't seen some or most of the year. That's going to be a tough hill to climb. And one of the most difficult things about this first show is trying to do too much. So there's other segments we could get to, other stuff we want to get to. We will this week, including Ross, including front office transparency, including Marquee. So let's stick with that for now on that kind of the more negative side and try to shift to Horner, Morel, Ross, and more.
Real quick. Just there are some things. What we're trying to just do is just, let you guys know our takes. Everyone's got opinions, right? Everybody's got, hey, I like this guy, I like this, this guy. The good news with the Cubs is this. For about a month now, maybe a little less than a month, Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson are looking like they're going to solidify spots in next year's rotation, and that's something to watch. And like I said
That's big.
like I said on the crossover on Locked On Reds with Locked On Cubs, when you're in a situation like we're in, Matt, you're just looking for something to watch every day. So look, was it frustrating they lost today? Yes. Future ramifications, Justin Steele pitched really well. Suzuki looked awesome in his first game back. So to me, Steele, Thompson, those two guys, watch them. I think Nico Horner has taken a step to where, yes, I do believe, and like you said, we'll talk about this separately, the Cubs will sign somebody in the middle infield this offseason. But I do believe Nico Horner has solidified his spot as a real player in the game. I mean, he gives me Tim Anderson vibes. I've said this many times. He's also really good on defense. Christopher Morel's been up and down, but he's very toolsy. He has a very high floor because even when he's struggling at the plate, he can play multiple positions. He could throw. He's got a great arm, things like that. And then, of course, positives on the minor league level. Pete Crow Armstrong has soared. Kevin Alcantara, Alexander Canario. So there are reasons to watch this team or watch this organization, if you will.
Maybe not a marquee though.
Yeah, right. Well, let me tell you, we're gonna get into that, and when we do,
look out.
Yeah, look out, and somebody wipe me down. But there are positives. Did I miss any?
No, I think that was a good rundown. I think the additional piece to Thompson and Steele especially, but even like an F. Ross or even Swarmer at times, these guys have good makeup. They have an FU button. I like their moxie. I like their approach. I like their competitive spirit. And excuse me if I'm old school about baseball sometimes.
Well,
as a baseball coach myself, I look for that. I think it pays off.
Yeah, I'm going to excuse you with Swarmer because now maybe if you mean a future.
Oh, here we go.
Maybe if you mean as a two-inning guy out of the bullpen, sure. If he's my starter, I live in Palatine, Illinois. I can look in the backyard as guys are going to be hitting the ball down Kenmore all the way to my river that doesn't even have any water in it. He gives up a lot of homers, that guy. So let's not listen. I get it. You got to be positive for the fans, Matt.
Correct.
Let's not go Swarmer. Okay. But Steele, Thompson, Horner, Morel, and of course, obviously the elephant in the room. And I promise you, we will talk about this on later shows. Is the trades? We'll get into Happ. We'll get into Contreras. We'll get into Hendricks. I'll probably have some surprising takes on that. But we have some time for that later on. But yeah, look, this is what it is, Matt. This is what it is. It is one of those things where it's like it's an uncontrollable situation. What am I going to do? Not watch the team anymore? Yes, it frustrates me that they're not good, but at the same time, and I'm not trying to be overly diplomatic. I'm not, but I understand why they're here and why they have to do this. But I do believe they're going to start to spend. I do believe the future isn't as bleak as a lot of casual fans do think it is. And I'm going to ride the wave because what else do I have to do? I'm not going out. I don't have friends, no girlfriend. I just work and watch this baseball team every day. That's it.
We have a lot of good shows coming up this week on Locked On Cubs. We're going to set aside full episodes, or at least a lot of the episode, to Marquee, to David Ross, to player development. Of course, the Cubs will finish their series up in Milwaukee against the Brewers. Then they travel cross country and play the Los Angeles Dodgers. So there's a lot to come up on our first week of Locked On Cubs. Really excited about that. Also, stay patient with the audio and video aspects of this show. Of course, this show today is not going to look and sound like it will even in 2 or 3 weeks. And also, we know that we have great backgrounds. You don't have to tell us about that. If you're watching on YouTube, we have great backgrounds, and we take a lot of pride in that.
And I tried to order my Jonathan VR poster, but he got DFA'd before Amazon could deliver it. If you want to get on base, hit a grounder to VR.
Be the part of the journey with us this week and every week, okay? We're just getting started. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Locked On Cubs on YouTube as we make the push to 1,000 subscribers. Follow along as well with us on Twitter at Locked On Cubs. And remember, you could leave us a voicemail or drop us a text, 312-834-4634. Anything else, Sam?
That was a fun first show, Matt. I'm going to go sulk over this ball game, watch a condensed game, dissect, come up with some stuff, and be ready to go tomorrow. I believe that's going to be a 6:40 Central first pitch.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Thanks for making Locked On Cubs your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. That's Locked On MLB Prospect. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. This is show number 1 in the books for Sam Olbur. I'm Matt Cozzi. This is Locked On Cubs.